Hey everyone, I'm Breanna from Boom, and welcome to this week's edition of Boom Chat. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Carly Usdin and Noah Hayes, the awesome team that's bringing you the Avant-Guards down to the wire. School, romance, friends, and family collide in this epic conclusion to the Avant-Garde series as the team struggles to save their league. The final game of the season is here. The team has got to plan the perfect fundraiser, and everyone's parents decided to show up to cheer them on during the most stressful time they could ever imagine. In the middle of it all, Liv and Charlie are figuring out just what it means to be Liv and Charlie. It's just a lot for everyone to deal with. Luckily, the entire existence of the league doesn't depend on this one game or the avant-gardes winning, right? Oh, wait. Carly, this story is so cute and wholesome and inclusive. It's just going to be a joy for fans to read these volumes. What was the inspiration behind the avant-gardes? And are these characters based on anyone you know?
Well, thank you. I do find it to be quite wholesome as well, which I really enjoy. The inspiration for the series was what would a comic book about, a comic book series, graphic novel series about essentially like the way a league of their own sort of gives you you have those moments of like athletic competition, and it's like the idea of like the underdogs like triumphing, but it also gives you a lot of insight into who everyone is, and you get to know everyone along the way. When Shannon Waters and she's the editor on the book, initially first were discussing it, we are like, we were talking about how much we loved those scenes on the buses when the Rockford Peaches were riding around, going to different games, and you got to really get to know the characters. And so that was kind of where the idea started. And then I was like, yeah, I love the idea of doing a sports book. I've played sports since middle school. I've played basketball and tennis since I was a kid. So I was like, but if we're doing this, if we're doing a sports book, I'm doing basketball. I refuse to learn the ins and outs of a new sport when I already know one very well. And Shannon was like, of course, write what you know, write what you love. So yeah, that was the inspiration for the whole series. The characters are all based on, all the characters I write, both in this book as well as in Heavy Vinyl, are all like, each one's like a little tiny piece of me. And then I kind of, start infusing friends and things like that, and personalities into it. With the avant-garde, something that was really fun, when coming up with the character, kind of the physical descriptions of each character, I made it a point to give make sure that there was like a WNBA player, at least one WNBA player was like kind of like a reference for everyone, for each character, just because I'm such a WNBA nerd. But yeah, the characters were all inspired by friends and by actual athletes, and like just experiences I've had playing team sports for a large portion of my life.
This was so wonderful and just so uplifting, and I was so invested as I was going through, and I was just like, I need to know what happened to these wonderful babies. I have to know. So thank you for that. And
Sure.
then that brings me to Noah. For you, I want to know, what's your artistic process like for this book, and what tools or mediums do you use to bring these characters to life?
Like the process is pretty much the same that it's been for all the books I've worked on. You get the script, you do the thumbnails, pencil it, do the inks, all that stuff. This new volume, we had some people come help us. We had Leah Caballero and Gabriele Bagnoli helping us on inking and penciling this recent volume. We also, Elea Nora Bruni, I think I'm saying that right, is our colorist, and Ed Dukeshire is our letterer. So like the artistic process is not just me. It's so many people across the board that help bring it all together. I feel like in like the grand scheme of things, I do like a very little part when it comes to like bringing everything to life. Like I'm the foundation basically. But
so it's a lot of teamwork. Y'all are like the artistic version of the avant-gardes.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely, yes.
That's amazing. I love it. Yeah, the colors and just it's just such a feast for the eyes, and the colors just like bring out this wonderful happy tonal quality. And so I really really appreciate that. So thank you all for that. Carly, my next question is for you. In the first two volumes, we see Charlie mention that she gets panic attacks. And in this final volume, she really comes to grips with her anxiety and how she has to approach it. And I am so glad that you've helped give mental health a platform to continue to be discussed. Did you do any research on anxiety and panic attacks?
I didn't have to because I've lived anxiety and panic attacks since I was a kid. The last couple of years, it's incorporating mental illness into my work has become something really important to me that I didn't expect to become important to me. I made a short film 2 years ago that was all about a queer teen or a queer magician, a queer female magician with OCD, and it was like the exact type of OCD that I have. So with Charlie, one of the things I was most excited about with that character was like when I initially set out to do the series, before I even knew where storyline wise we were going, I knew that there was going to be this character who was sort of this reluctant teammate, someone who's really good but couldn't get through a lot of their own emotional and mental blocks to actually play. And that was based on my own experience. When I was in middle school and high school playing on very competitive basketball teams, I would get panic attacks every day on the way to go to practice, on the way to go to games. My anxiety was through the roof. And there's so many other reasons why that have nothing to do with basketball, and just have to do with me as a person and being in high school, which is a very stressful and strange time in a person's life. But I used to, they and it's still a thing that people say now. It's like, like encourage young girls to play team sports is like this thing that was like such a big thing in the late 90s, but it's also something I've seen recently. Commercials during WNBA games, NBA playoffs, like I'm still seeing commercials that are like, get girls to play sports, which is great. But my experience with team sports as a kid was terrible. I felt ostracized and anxious, and it was such a stressful thing for me. So I wanted that to be kind of Charlie's story too, that there was something that was like a conflict there for her, that she couldn't get like she had to get through something internal. And then the other part of the inspiration for Charlie is, as an adult here in LA, I was playing before everything happened, but I was playing for years in a women's basketball league and playing on this really incredible team with like other just like weird dorky adults, many of whom like work in entertainment and things like that. And that experience has been so incredible that I wanted to kind of show Charlie, like I wanted the character of Charlie to have this experience of like my past experience with basketball was very stressful and I don't think I want to do it anymore. And then like the right team comes along and is able to kind of bring her out of that and show her that this is a really wonderful thing, and like teamwork is awesome and we can all like succeed together and it's great. So sorry, very long-winded answer, but
that's okay.
It's entirely based on my own experiences.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, because I too suffer from anxiety and panic disorder. And it's so nice to see somebody else in a comic book who is dealing with that, because then you realize I am not alone. I am not the only person that deals with this. And I'm, and it makes it so it's less of a stigma to talk about. So thank you for that. And like, thank you for being open about that as well. I really appreciate you sharing that with me.
It's something I've started doing more in the last few years. And just a quick anecdote about this final volume. I remember when we were sort of working on it, there was this moment where like me and Shannon and Sophie and Noah kind of started looking at the exact kind of like Charlie's trajectory in the final few episodes of like, she's like kind of retreating into herself and she's kind of done some not so great things, and kind of we all kind of work together to figure out the best way to sort of illustrate her dealing with all of that and how that affects all the people around her. And so that was like again like another really exciting team moment, for like the creative team behind the scenes to kind of I'm so in my own head about my own anxiety and things that sometimes it's hard to put it onto the page, but it was really a beautiful and very cool creative moment for all of us to work together on that.
I love this whole theme of teamwork with everybody, and this whole like all these different pieces are coming together, and it makes the avant-gardes work. And it's great. Noah, my next question for you is what were your favorite scenes to bring to life, and which characters were your favorite to draw?
Well, I think any scene where I could sort of reveal stuff about the characters that we won't necessarily be told. Things that I can like sort of sneak in the background. Like there's a scene in volume 2 where they're all watching all the movies, and Tiffany has like these vegan cupcakes that she's brought, and Carly had a note in the script that like no one has touched the cupcakes, and I was like, no, Jay would definitely eat the cupcakes though. Jay's so nice that they would either legitimately love these vegan cupcakes that Tiffany has made or power through they were horrible just to be polite. And so it's like stuff like that. So there's a bit that I'm really excited about in this volume that's coming up now, where I kind of did, because sometimes like working with the script is kind of like working with a puzzle. So you know, you have things like staged out in the scene, you have to be aware like where everyone is and where the set is, and make sure that like it's easy to follow from like point A to point B. And that was really important for the avant-garde, especially because like I sort of consider it as like a lot of people who are going to read this book, this may be their first comic they've ever picked up. So like readability was really important for me when I approached like layouts and stuff like that. So there's a scene in volume 3 where Nicole and Liv have a conversation, and Nicole climbs over the back seat of the van while they're having this like almost very deep talk. And it was a good way because Nicole had started out behind the van, and I was like, trying to get her from outside the van to inside the van is going to be too hard the traditional way. But Nicole's just like weird enough that she would definitely climb over the back seat and just like having this deep conversation and like confrontation with Liv, just like, hey man, you gotta like pull it together, as she's like climbing up under the seat and then like coming back up and fixing her hair and like, so let's talk about it sort of thing. Like and doing scenes like that and like incorporating what I like saw in them, and fitting that into the puzzle, and revealing things about them that in a way that's like showing and not telling, was really fun. And
But
in
those are
terms of
the
like who
things that
my
like
favorite was.
no, I was
Oh
just
no,
gonna say those are the things that like make them real and relatable, because I mean, I know I've definitely crawled through a car and been like, whoa, okay, so what are we doing? And it helps you connect with them on such like a deeper level. And it's thank you for all of those little touches.
Yeah, for sure. And I think because of that, I think Nicole was one of my favorites to draw. I think I like related to her the most, just like personality wise and stuff like that. But Tiffany was another like big favorite of mine. I had a lot of fun with her, just like incorporating the witchy stuff and just little things like she reads romance novels on the way to games and things like that. And she has like her reading glasses on the chain. Because I had a friend in college who like, she was so cool, but she like had her glasses on a chain, like a mom. And I thought that was so great. Like, and but Tiffany was another favorite, and Jay was another big favorite of mine. They're like, I can't pick between them. They're my top 3.
That's fine. I won't make you choose. But I do have a follow-up question for you. What makes drawing a sports comic different from the other stories that you've worked on?
I don't think it's that different at all. I mean, like beyond like the genre, I mean, like stories are all the same, right? Like pizza is all the same, but like there's different toppings and stuff. Like people like, you know, Chicago style pizza or New York style pizza, like, and it's sort of just like being like a big fantasy fan. I play a lot of D&D. That's another like genre where like teamwork is involved. So a sports comic is really just another form of the ensemble cast. And so when coming off of like Wet Hot American Summer, that was another ensemble cast. It was pretty easy to like go from there to avant-garde. And I was thinking about like what was like the big hurdle over it. Maybe just like having to draw like gyms. Those are surprisingly complex. Especially if you have any shots with like the roofing on top. There's a lot of like the metal like structure and things like that. Like that's complicated. But really not that much different from anything else I've worked on.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, final question for the both of you. Well, Carly, we know you're into sports, but also Noah, are you into any sports? And what sparked any sports interest for either of you?
Well, I'm not really much of a sports person. I did marching band in high school. That was my thing. I did martial arts for a little while. And I did dance for a couple years. I mean, I was doing like ballet out the womb, basically. But I don't watch a lot of sports, and maybe, I did horseback riding. That's what I really love to do.
Ooh.
Yeah, so.
Fun fact. I love that.
Yeah.
My best friend actually used to do horseback riding competitions. So, ooh, very fancy.
Dressage.
Carly, what got you started with the WNBA?
I fell in love with basketball in middle school. It was mostly like a Michael Jordan, Chicago Bulls dream team situation. I was super into all of that. I just was obsessed. So that Chicago Bulls Michael Jordan documentary this summer was like catnip. I was just the happiest. So I got really into that, and then like just through that and like being a girl who played basketball, starting to like be like, are there women's professional leagues? Like why am I not seeing this? Like there's women's college basketball, and this was like in the 90s, so it was still a thing that was growing. The WNBA didn't start until the end of the 90s, so like late, like 98, I think. So I was so excited. Like I was just like in that world so passionately. So when the WNBA started, I was just like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened. Oh my God. Like I went to games. Like I was so excited. And then, you grow up, you kind of, you lose interest in certain things. And so for a while I was less into sports, and I was more into like music and like making movies and this. And so in the last like 4 or 5 years, I've gotten back into basketball a lot. And now I've been watching, I'm into the NBA, WNBA, but the WNBA is sort of my favorite kind of league to watch.
That's wonderful. I am not a sports person. My husband is the sports person, but I appreciate all of the sports. I absolutely adore this book. It's so cute. So Carly and Noah, thank you both so much. I'm so excited that we finally get to find out what happens to the league and if they win the playoffs. Thank you both for your time and for your work. And to those of you watching, be sure to pick up the Avant-Gardes Down to the Wire in stores now.